there were 3 charges that stemmed from the accident that happened after this happened. And this is the defendant, rather Mr. Pangle, the defendant's friend, being stopped and arrested for DWI. Welcome back to Closing Arguments. I'm James Curtis along with Lisa Bloom. The 3 charges that stem from the accident that Michael Pangle had later on in the evening are all based in a common law theory called accomplice liability. Mr. Ostrowski, the prosecutor, is arguing to the jury that based on the conduct from earlier in the evening with the DWI arrest, that they can really only reach one conclusion, that the defendant was being deceptive when he talked to the police.
We're going to talk about Dr. Rogers a little later on. But Dr. Rogers said something very interesting. He watched the video, but the only way he could tell that this guy was drunk is because he's an expert. How insulting, ladies and gentlemen. How insulting. Anybody who watched that video knows what that video shows. Anybody watching the video did not have the same benefit as Trooper Gates did. Having that boisterous, obnoxious loudmouth with that stinking breath just a foot away from his head. And you saw the patience and professionalism he demonstrated. And he gets Pangle back. And Pangle blows a .21. And Pangle still is exhibiting all of those signs. The drunk in the corner at the wedding that you might recognize. The drunk on TV. That was Mike Pangle. .21. So Trooper Gates does what he believes is reasonable under the circumstances, was practiced every single day by the New Jersey State Police and all other police departments. Secure him the ride. You call a friend. You call a reasonable, responsible person. Not just any friend, ladies and gentlemen. His best friend. And he called him and he talked to him and said, your buddy's been arrested for DWI. But let's stop there for a second. Because that seems to be twisted already by Kenneth Powell. You know, I'm glad Mr. Manganiello referenced this Agatha Christie or whatever it was he was talking about, a web. Because there's an old saying, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but something about, I have it written down. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. You're going to see, that's Kenneth Powell throughout this whole trial, throughout this whole ordeal. I'm going to put a spin on it. I'm going to deceive. Another strand in my web of deceit. As this web starts growing tighter and tighter around him, you're going to see he gets caught in it. He's caught in his own web. Because he wants to say immediately, well, Trooper Gates didn't say he was drunk driving, he just had too much to drink. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what the difference of that is. Neither one of those people should be put back behind the wheel of a car. But despite what Kenneth Powell, through his statement, wants everybody to believe, despite what he wanted Karen Brown to believe, Karen Brown, who was not even part of that conversation, Karen Brown, who did not even hear Kenneth Powell's part of that conversation, knew what Kenneth Powell's responsibilities were, knew what Kenneth Powell was agreeing to do, and knew what Kenneth Powell was doing. And that was going to pick up Mike Pangle for DWI, driving while intoxicated. And she went so far as to get in an argument with him. You're not bringing him back here, because I'm not having that stinking drunk throw up in my house, and you're not bringing him back in my car. You're not taking my car, because I'm not having him throw up in my car. Floyd Moncrief, Charles Lord, George Pritchett, Trooper Gates, everybody who's seen that video, now Karen Brown, who hasn't even seen the guy, knows what the deal is. So a series of conscious decisions begins. A series of conscious decisions that would ultimately seal John Elliott's fate. A series of conscious decisions that would sign his death warrant. Kenneth Powell takes the keys, sticks them in his own ignition, Karen Brown's car, follows the directions that the troopers gave him. The same trooper that said, your buddy's been arrested for DWI, can you bring another person? And he says, no, I can't bring another person. can only come myself. Well, the car will be okay. Just come pick him up, take him home. So Pal shows up. Pal shows up at the police station, and he's buzzed in. And Pal recognizes that he's buzzed in, because he says that in a statement too. And Pal agrees that he had this contact with Trooper Chang, because Trooper Chang took his driver's license. Trooper Chang ran his driver's license, and Pal knew what that was for. Pal was a designated driver. The state police were certainly not going to do what Pal did and unleash another bad person on the road, another person who had a revoked driver's license, who had maybe some other smudge on their driving history that they shouldn't be driving. But again, the web of deceit. What else did Pal leave out? Pal put on all that detail, even to the degree where he knew what the license running was for, but nothing about the conversation he had with Trooper Chang. Now, every single one of these troopers got up here on that stand, and as Mr. Manganiello reminded each and every one of them on cross-examination, I remind you, you're under oath, he would say. Uncontradicted, uncontroverted testimony from these troopers, and you watched how they testified. When you're making judgments of credibility, you look at a lot of things. How does somebody maintain their composure under very extensive cross-examination? That goes to their credibility. Did they continue to make eye contact with the jury? Did they speak in a deliberate manner? Or were they trying to make excuses?
You know, there's a saying in probably a lot of different businesses, but particularly in television. Producers always tell you when they're trying to get you to go along with an idea or put something on TV or do a certain type of show, don't oversell. Don't try to say too much, because you don't want the person to be disappointed and deflated and never, have a meeting with you again. Is this prosecutor overselling his case? Can what he is saying to this jury be supported by the evidence, or will they go into that deliberation room deflated and disappointed? Well, we'd love to hear what you have to say about that issue and any other issues we cover here on Closing Arguments. So send us an email, whether it be about chocolate mousse or Michael Obstrowski. The Closing Argument address is closingarguments@courttv.com. We'll be right back.